Grief is one of the lower range of frequencies, but it is because you loved, which is a higher frequency. So it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to feel grief. But what it can do is sort of almost block your intuition and the feeling of your loved one, because your vibration just is not in a place that you can feel them. And that's okay, right? Just know that it is true. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast, where practical spirituality meets real life. Hi, I'm your host, She Tells Story. I'm a psychic medium, grief support counselor, professional astrologer, and a human design reader, and of course, a law of attraction master coach. With my unique blend of spiritual and practical tools, I am here to help you align with your soul-led purpose and ignite a life that sets your soul on fire. In this podcast, we are going to explore the principles of energy, astrology, spirituality, and psychology to help you heal your grief and create an aligned life and business from the inside out. Whether you are looking to deepen your intuition, understand your cosmic design, or transform your business, this podcast is for you. Join me each week for insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will guide you on your journey to living your very best life. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at She Tells Story or wherever you listen to this podcast. Let's dive in and start this transformative journey together. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast. Grief over the holidays. It can be a really challenging time when you have gone through a loss, right? And grief over the holidays can look like many different things. It can be the end of a relationship, and this is the first time that you are without your significant other. So whether they have passed away or they served you with divorce papers, or you are the one that served them with divorce papers, it's still a change in what has been sort of routinely the way that you would organize around this time of year. And that's one example of loss. If you had a pet that has passed away, I've had a lot in my community who have lost their beloved fur family during this year. So navigating the holidays without your fur family being there can be really hard as well. Someone who has passed away, even either recently or over the holidays, or even this is an anniversary time that they passed during the time of Christmas, or they had passed earlier in the year and their absence is very felt during this time, right? It can also be a time where you're feeling a lot of financial grief, where you have credit cards and you don't know how you're going to make payments. And the world, everything is getting more and more expensive, and you might for the first time have to use a food bank. There's a lot of loss and grief in that, or if you lose your job during this time. I know of a lot of employers that are holding off on laying people off during this time, so layoff might be coming in January. But I've also been part of organizations that they just lay you off right before Christmas because they don't want to pay you. So there's a lot of reasons to be grieving over the holidays. If you are not experiencing any of these, that is wonderful. But I guarantee you know someone who is, right? So if you are not grieving, you know someone who is grieving. And I think it's really important to talk about these tools and what is happening and how it feels, because then you can either support yourself or support someone else as you're moving through it. Because the one thing over the holidays, especially, that we don't want to have happen is isolation, quiet, try not to talk about the thing. Like talk about the thing. Like I think that's why I mean maybe people like me. I don't know. I actually don't even know if people like me, to be honest. But I just talk about the things that people don't like to talk about. And I make it normal. I make it comfortable, right? Let's talk about it, right? You got a booger in your nose. By the way, you got a booger hanging on your nose, Like it's okay. It's okay. I was with someone recently and we were laughing and she farted. And I laughed and I'm like, hey, welcome to being in the body, And she laughed and laughed and laughed. It's okay. I have kids, man. Like I've been pooped on, shit on, puked on. Like it's fine. I don't have an issue around being with uncomfortable situations. If anything, I lean into the uncomfortableness by speaking about it. Right. Instead of saying nothing and walking away awkwardly, I'll actually speak to it and I'll actually say that I've done that too, whether I have or not. At least it lets them know that it's not they're not uncomfortable and I really don't care. I really don't care. Is it funny? Probably. When the girl farted, we both laughed. And it was, she had been holding it in. I was like, poor thing, let it out. She's like, I will when you leave. I was like, okay, I'm leaving right now. So, just talk about the thing, ask the person. Are you thinking about your dog? Or if you don't want to bring it up, I'm going to actually recommend not bringing it up and allowing the other person to bring it up and creating a safe space around that. How are you doing? That is very open-ended question, and it also is inviting the person to meet you at a level that they're comfortable with. That's a great question to ask somebody. How are you doing really? I know someone who wrote a book about that. Jenna Kutcher wrote a book. How are you really? Because do we actually talk about how we're feeling? I'm fine. I'm good. Fine and good are mental answers to an emotional question. How are you feeling? How are you doing really? And when I ask that question, I will look you in the eyes and I ask the cashiers that, I ask people I run into, how are you doing really? How are you feeling? And I'll just ask and wait because I care. I'm not like, oh, how are you? It's fine. Okay, I got to pay. Here's my dollar bill. Like, I'm actually caring. I ask and I listen. I listen to what they're saying because I'm not just listening to the words that they're saying. I'm also listening to their body language and I'm listening to the emotion that's coming out. And you might be thinking, yeah, do you do that in every situation? I do it in every effing situation, y'all. Every situation because I'm a big observer of my surroundings. It's what I do, right? It's what I do for a living. It's what I notice about people. I mean, those are those subtle little cues that are asking you for help, support, or repelling you saying, no, I don't want to talk about it, which is fine. I honor that, right? But there is something about being with a psychic that people just like to tell you things, and I'm a safe space for it, right? I have zero judgment. Everyone is on their own path, right? So when you're navigating grief over the holidays, when you're with someone has gone through a big hurt, I have a dear friend who's lost a pet. I will ask her, how is she doing? How is she honoring her sadness over the holidays because it will be her first time without this beloved animal in her life, and it's okay. I can talk about it. I can hold space for that. If she cries, I get to sit with her through those tears. It's okay. I mean, if I have to go, I'll be like, just want to let you know I have to leave by this time. I'm happy to sit with you up till that moment, but I do have to go. And I'm sorry, deeply sorry. I'd love to sit with you longer. And they're often like, oh, no, no, it's okay. It's okay. I don't mean to take up the time. No one likes to take up space with sadness or downer things. And it's okay to take up space with sadness and downer things. It's okay with the right people, I suppose, who you feel comfortable with and people who have the tools to hold that space for you. Not everyone has those tools. And sometimes you'll feel really disappointed that the people you wished had those tools don't have those tools. I had that happen to me this year where someone I really deeply wanted to walk with me through some very, very horrible fires that I was dealing with could not because of their own trauma. And it was eye opening for me because we'd walked through many traumas and many fires together, but just could not in that capacity. And it was the end of the road for our friendship, but it was for the best. Like it really was for the best in so many ways. I think it created freedom for both of us, really. So everything is happening for an opportunity. It's not a bad thing. These things, noticing who's there for you and who's not there for you, and then who can step into that fire with you, and they might not be the same person that's going to step into the fire with you 2 years from now. Like, it's okay. Everyone comes across your path at the right and perfect moment. You might be that for someone else, or someone might be that for you. It doesn't have to be like this forever. You know what I mean? Keeping that in your awareness. So, I wanted to create 5 ways to support yourself with grief through the Christmas holidays. And I'll use Christmas holidays. If you don't celebrate Christmas, think of it as the holiday season or the end of the year. It's a time of kind of winding down, hibernation, going within if you're in the northern hemisphere. So we tend to notice the sadness that comes up because it is a darker time up here for us. So the first one is honoring your loved one. And if you're not grieving because of a loved one who's passed or is not in your life, or the relationship of that person is not the way that you want it, it could be the relationship with your job or relationship with the other person, or if you're grieving something else, a diagnosis. All right, if you have someone in your life that's been diagnosed, these holiday season can take on a very different energy and experience. So noticing that, as well, that you're feeling that. But if you're grieving a loved one, that can be a fur baby, a person in your life, a relationship that has changed, somebody who is not in your life anymore but is not dead. They've changed, or they've ostracized you, or they've chosen to live a lifestyle that you cannot walk with them on, then you will be missing a loved one. And honoring that relationship wherever it is, or honoring that loved one in spirit, creating a ritual or tradition to keep their memory alive, that can be really hard if a child is not part of your family anymore because they've made some choices to go in a direction that, again, you can't follow, or they have told you that they don't want you in their life anymore, which I have a few people in my community who are going through that. And that is really, really tough because you give everything to your child sometimes, and it feels like a very thankless, and thoughtless experience. But I assure you, on a soul level, it is not. It is not. So, a really wonderful way to honor their memory of who they were, or that really wonderful soul that was in your life that's no longer, is to light a candle for them, right? Just lighting a candle in memory of that person. Again, a living loss, is as well. You could light a candle for that person because you wouldn't be sad if you didn't care, right? So the candle is about the caring, and you're just honoring that person by lighting a candle and sending love. Creating an ornament in honor of the person that, or the animal that you've lost. Having an ornament that hangs on your tree, if you decorate a tree, or even in your house, or your home, to honor that person. Preparing their favorite dish, if it's something that they really love to eat. I mean, of course, different for an animal, but for a person, honoring them by creating their favorite dish. I have a client who, her grandmother came through in a reading that she deeply wanted her to make this dish to bring to the next family reunion because no one made it like her. And it was wonderful because it created a whole conversation about this person, their memory, their experiences with everyone in the family. It keeps them alive. It's really such a beautiful thing when you talk about them when they're in spirit. You're keeping their memory alive, and you're calling them to you energetically. So they are present when you talk about them. This can provide a sense of comfort and connection to the person. Again, same with the living loss, too. And for those of you who don't know what a living loss is someone who is alive but is not the same person that you knew. So this can be like dementia, someone who's going through dementia, or their body has changed, or their meds have changed their mind and their psychology. So their personality is different. They're more prone to anger. It could also be a separation. So someone who has chosen to not be in your life anymore, or has sort of cast you out, or maybe caused a lot of grief and separation, or you have chosen to separate from them because of the pain and the patterns and the habits that come with them that really don't benefit your life. So, though that's called a living loss, they're still alive, they're just not in your life. Or they're alive, but they're not the person that you once knew, through medical, issues, or drug issues, or things like that can change a person. All right. The second thing you can do over the holidays to honor grief and support yourself is to set boundaries. Now, I know that's such a lovely word, boundaries. Boundaries. People talk about boundaries like it's just like, oh, I can draw a line right here. And it is not that easy, because the things that you feel when you set a boundary. One of the things I know with my clients specifically is most of the people in my world are empathic, or very intuitive and sensitive. So when they say no, or when they say, I can't do that thing, they can feel the energy of the other person change. And most times that change is disappointment, right? So if someone to invite me to brunch and I say, no, I'm sorry, I can't attend, there could be a disappointment with the no, right? Probably going to be a disappointment about the no. And that no can feel very hard to say, because then you want to recant it. You don't want them to feel disappointed in you. That disappointment makes you feel bad, because when you please people, you feel good because they like you. So when you don't please people, when you disappoint people, then they don't like you. And that can go back to childhood, right? So setting boundaries, not so easy, But being honest, it can what you can and can't handle with the holidays should really show you who's there for you and who understands your limitations. It's okay to say no to events or traditions that feel overwhelming or don't feel in alignment, even. I have a client that's like, you know what? I always do this thing. I always host and I always give dinner. And this year I'm not doing that because I don't want to do it on Christmas. The Christmas is for my family. I don't want to do it for the rest of the family. We'll do it on another day. I gave options to my family. That's it. And I was like, wow, score. Because really it's asking for what you need. And if you weren't able to ask for what you need, or you were shunned for asking what you need, or you were chastised for asking for what you need when you were younger, then asking for what you need now can feel painful, can feel harmful, can feel very unsafe, and can challenge connection. So, when you are fully connected to yourself, when you love and honor yourself and your boundaries, you will pull in people into your universe that also honor their boundaries and their space and your space and your boundaries, because it comes from it's a mirror, right? We're reflecting out into the world. So we're attracting people with boundary issues if we have boundary issues. So when you clean up your boundary issues, you then clean up who you're in the world with, and you invite other people to be in your boundaries too. So understanding what your boundaries are, prioritizing your well-being, and choosing activities that feel supportive. So you're trying to find a win-win for everybody, and it's not at the sacrifice of yourself. I want to say that again. You're trying to find a win-win for everybody, and it's not at the sacrifice of yourself. So an example with that Christmas one is that I'm not going to be available on the 25th, but if you want to do it on the 24th, 27th, whatever, I'm available on these times or these dates. And of course, because the family is big and not everyone's available, and the tradition was Christmas, not everybody's going to be available. And she was like, I'm okay with not being there this year. Actually, I almost hope I do. So it was, she came to a place in her life where she could say that. And by the way, that is like huge, right? It's celebrating her for that, because that's to take that courage to stand up for what you want in a big family with the patterns that are embroiled in that family, enmeshed in that family. That was a huge win for her. So good for that. So setting your boundaries, and notice where you have a hard time with boundaries and what are you making that mean, right? The people in your life that honor your boundaries, that you taking time for you, will still come around, right? I have had many friends leave my life because I'm like, I'm not interested in being on the phone every day. I cannot do things that make it feel hard. If you're organizing, if you want me to organize everything, yeah, I don't know if that's really something I subscribe to. There was a time in my life that I would, organize for everybody else and give to everyone else. And then soon within that experience, I would be shown that they really couldn't give a crap about me. So it was really interesting to notice that, it continued to be a pattern until I shifted that and said, no more, I'm not doing that anymore. And wow. Right. But you're creating a new pattern. So it feels very uncertain. It's going to feel a little kind of strange. It might even feel isolating, but I continue to reiterate that you will continue to draw in people who have learned that lesson, but you just got to wait a little bit because you've created a pattern shift. So until you go out into the world and make new friendships or be in places where people can find you, this ending will be the ending for a bit, and then there'll be new beginnings coming soon. So keep stay take heart, stay focused, stay being you and loving you. The third thing you can do to support yourself with grief over the holidays is to create space for your emotions. How many people have crazy busy holidays, accommodating everybody, dinners here, birthday or Christmas presents, maybe there's a birthday in there, excuse me, accommodating everyone else's plans, and no longer. Right. This is a time now to really listen to your body and listen to your emotions. Acknowledge and allow your feelings to surface without judgment. Journal, meditate, or simply talk with a trusted friend or counselor can help you to process your grief in a healthy way. So, if you have a tradition of decorating the tree together, but you've recently gone through a divorce or a separation, there can feel like there's an emptiness there. There can feel like there's a sadness for what was the tradition. It's okay to be sad. You're not trying to medicate yourself and go have a glass of wine and take a tub of ice cream and watch Netflix. It's okay to reflect on all those beautiful years that you had together, and that now this has shifted, and maybe even bring your mind to what are the possibilities now for you? What are some things you could do instead? What is a new tradition you could create during that time? If you are missing your pet, being around, you can still have their dog bed by the tree, or you could, again, put an ornament up for them at the tree, or do something that reminds you of them. To have honor the emotions, and if you need tears to fall, then let tears fall. There's nothing wrong with crying. There's nothing wrong with feeling sad. Just allow it to move. Allow it to move. And if you have a hard time coming out of that, then there can be some things that you can do to change the energy at the end of it. That could be that lighting that candle. That could be watching a video of them that brings you joy. That could be looking at pictures of them that make you laugh or remind you of the good times. Telling good stories about them, reminding you that they had wonderful times with them. And yes, that has changed now, but those memories get to live with you forever. They are not gone, they are not negated. They still are part of your story and your history, and you get to celebrate them too. Focusing on self care is number four. Nurturing yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually, resting when you need to, eat nourishing foods, and engage in calming activities like yoga, walks in nature, listening to music, doing things that feel really nourishing for yourself. Self care isn't just a bubble bath or an Epsom salts bath or a massage, although those are really lovely too. It is sleeping, clean hygiene, energy hygiene in your life. So that is grounding, that is creating space for journaling, reading uplifting books or listening to uplifting music, podcasts, doing things that nourish your soul, right? Meeting someone for brunch that feels really lovely to you. Walking in nature is so wonderful. Going skating, I don't know if you want to go tobogganing, that requires a lot of energy. If you're grieving, I don't think you'll want to do that. But if there's someone in your life that wants to do that with you, that might be super fun. So, focusing on self care is not just about, again, the bubble bath and the massage and the pedicures. There is mind, body, spirit. How can you nourish yourself on the mind, body, spirit? So, mind, nourishing yourself, music would be great. Meditation would be great. Sleep is really great. Sleep also great for the body. Resting your mind. Even watching, like, my go-to for when I'm feeling down or going through grief. If I'm when I'm ready to uplift, I watch The Golden Girls. That's one of my favorite movie or favorite shows. I always laugh watching it. I love it. Or my favorite comedian is Jim Gaffigan. So I'll Google some of his shows and just watch those. Or Sebastian Maniscalco back in the day. So funny. So I'll just put on a bunch of those videos and just watch them on a loop. Especially Facebook is really good for that. Lots of those. YouTube does have them, but now they always mix them up with other shorts and stuff like that. So I really like to watch it on Facebook myself. And then the fifth one, that is a wonderful way to support yourself over the holidays with grief, if you are going through grief, is finding support. Connecting with others who understand what you're going through, whether it's friends, family, or a support group, sharing your feelings can lighten the load and remind you that you're not alone. So, you will have friends in your life or people in your life that you can just be yourself with. If you are missing somebody who has passed away, you're like, I'm really missing so and so. And if that's me, I will ask you, tell me about them. What do you miss? What was your favorite memory of them over this time? And just talk about them. They're still here. I think that's the difference for me versus kind of a regular person. Is a regular person. I don't know. Someone who doesn't talk to dead people, I guess, is a regular person, I guess. I don't know. But I would say for me, I know they're right here. You're talking about them and they're like, tell them to talk about me. Tell them about the story. Tell them about this piece, because they want you to remember that they lived. They lived a good life and they want you to remember them because they matter to you and you matter to them. They love you deeply. That's why they come, right? So if you have lost someone that is in spirit, whether it be a fur baby or a loved one in spirit, those spirits will come to visit you at Christmas time. When you miss them, they will come to visit you. And not just at Christmas, it's like they're on hiatus for the rest of the year. That's not it. They come when you think about them. They are comforting them. I want you to think about it if you were in spirit. If you had taken your last breath today, and now all of these people are going through Christmas and they're missing you and thinking about you and wishing you were here and really, really sad, would you be like off partying or would you be supporting them? right? Energetically. You'd be in the room with them, you might put your arm around them, you might sit with them, and that is exactly what happens for us in the living is they are energetically there. And sometimes we think that it's a fragment of our mind or we're making it up where we could feel their arm around us or we can feel them sitting on the bed with us. I often have experiences with widows where they will feel like they're sleeping next to their person, and the spirit person will show me that they're still sleeping in the bed with them, or they'll put their arm over them in the night so they feel that. And I had a client once say, like, actually a number of clients say, I swear I feel his arm around me. I swear I feel it. And I said, you do. You do, because he's doing it. He's showing me that he's doing that with you because he wants you to know he's still there. And it was one of his most favorite things to feel you there sleeping, cuddling with you. He was a cuddler. And they're like, he was a cuddler. So that is not a fragment of your imagination. That's real. You're feeling their energy with you. And when you are in your most relaxed state, you're actually more open to feeling it deeper, is what you're doing. So that's why in the sleep, it's so easy to feel that. And, can it be scary? I don't think so, because who else would do that? Like, it's them doing it. They're going to show you that it is them, and you can feel their energy too. And sometimes grief blocks that energy, to be fair. So you might not be able to feel that it's them or feel any signs from them. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that they're not there. It just means that you're energetically not at that point yet. Yet. Right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a natural part of grief that it is in a lower vibration. It doesn't mean that's a bad thing. It is part of the human experiences, part of the human experience to have all the emotions, to feel the whole range of frequencies that we're here to feel. So grief is one of the lower range of frequencies, but it is because you loved, which is a higher frequency. So it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to feel grief. But what it can do is sort of almost block your intuition and the feeling of your loved one, because your vibration just is not in a place that you can feel them. And that's okay, right? Just know that it is true. I'm telling you it's true because I talk to a lot of dead people. And there's no harm in believing that it's true. Really is no harm. You know, if anything, if it is true and you believe that it's true, fantastic. If it is true and you believe that it is fake, well, you've just missed out on a whole treasure trove, right? And if it is not true and you believe that it's not true, fine. If it's not true and you believe that it is true, well, at the most, you're delusional, right? Fine, whatever. But I can tell you what, like living in this world, having proven that these people are here, that there's things about them, about you, and about them that I should not know, but it's coming from them. It proves that life exists after death. Right. And science is getting closer and closer to it. They can feel there's an energetic field. The energetic field is cohesive. It's no longer there after passing. They continue to try to gain a sense of the weight of a soul, because if they can gain a weight, then science says if there's a weight to it, then it exists, which is such ridiculousness, because we know energy exists, but how do we, I guess molecular mass and all that. But there's also neutrinos now. They see that there's smaller particles. Science, I just feel, is always trying to like put labels on things that we already know to be true. And I think society looks to science to validate that these things are real and true. And, for centuries, for generations, ancient wisdom shows us that it is true. So you can't make this stuff up, in terms of reincarnation and souls coming back and having this awareness of soul family, knowing people who we've met before. Everything is happening in right and perfect order. And when you're going through grief, it sucks. It really sucks, and especially over the holidays. So I hope these 5 things can help you out throughout this time if you are moving through grief. If you're moving through end of life with someone over the holidays, these 5 things can also support you there too. That is one of the hardest things, because you're not really present for any celebration. You're really just trying to move through and anticipate the grief that is to come. And notice, if you're going through end of life with somebody, that those are really beautiful moments. The soul is wrapping up its time here. So there will be cycles finishing. There will be awarenesses. It'll be a catalyst for everyone around them to heal as well, right? It's not just for you, it is happening for the people around them too. So I often notice with end of life, it's like people will come in that, beef that have had beef over time and grudges, everything is forgotten, and it feels like it's time now to sort of say thank you and I'm sorry and all the things, and really taking stock of what's important in life, and being a catalyst for that, and what's your mark and legacy going to be. So maybe there's a book that's being written or something that's being, happening. I remember my astrology teacher, Chris McCrae. She lived to 92, and I got to meet her at 82. And I remember those last few years of her life, she was trying to publish a book, trying so hard, but there was like Mercury retrograde, there was chapters missing. She broke a hip, she was in the hospital. She was trying to, it was very painful for her to sit for a long time, but she got that book done. And I think she's written about 12 books in her time. So she is a very published author, but this book felt like it needed to get out into the world. And she finished the last edit before she passed, but COVID shut down everything. So the book deal actually fell through. And her dear friend and someone who is a pillar in the astrology world, Ray Merriman, has a publishing company and published her book. And I remember buying it, and wishing that she had signed it, because she had signed all the other books that I had bought from her. And it was a really sad moment. She died over Christmas by herself, in a emergency room because of COVID. A lifetime of leading students, lifetime. So many people she touched, thousands of astrologers that she birthed into this world from her knowledge, and, to pass in that way. So over Christmas, I honor her. She changed my life. I got we said the 10 best years of her life. We were very good friends by the time she took her last breath. And that sadness that I couldn't be there with her during that time, I think of her always during the holidays. And I'll take out her book and I'll put my hands over her signature, and I can feel her with me. And I honor her during that time, and I honor her now by sharing her with you. She is why I am an astrologer today. And I got the honor of mentoring with her, like true mentorship. She shared all her information, her tips and tricks, her best, the ways that she learned things, the things that they don't teach anymore. She taught them to me, and I'm her legacy. And I'm so honored to be that for her. So, who are you honoring over these holidays? It could be somebody close or not. You could be blessed to not have, anyone close to you pass yet into spirit. And it could be even someone that's alive that you just want to honor with their impact on your life. So I'm honoring my dear friend, Chris McCrae, my teacher, my mentor, a pillar in the world of astrology. I still get sad because I wish I could have said goodbye, but I know she's here. And a funny story with this, and this, I'll wrap this up, is the first astrology reading that I gave after her passing happened to be, I didn't know this at all, because when I've got my astrology hat on, I'm in my astrology mind. So I'm using my astrology stuff and, the information and things. And it said in there, I'm like, you're very, very intuitive. I can feel that in your chart. She goes, yes, I'm a psychic. And so I was like, oh, that's amazing, right? What are you doing with it? Blah, blah, blah. And so we started talking about that. And then at the end of the reading, she said, okay, I have to tell you, there's this little woman standing beside you with glasses on, and she's looking over your shoulder, and she keeps whispering in your ear, and she says her name is Chris. And I knew Chris was with me. I knew she was at peace. I knew she was with me. I could feel that. But when someone else validates that, I mean, and what are the chances that my very first reading after Chris's passing would be with a psychic medium? I didn't know. You just give me your name and your birth information. I don't Google you, and who has time for that? And she said that there's this woman, and she's over your shoulder, and she wants me to say everything happened perfectly, and she loves you very much. So with that, my friends, I'm wishing you a wonderful holiday season and honoring the grief that you are experiencing over this holiday time. And it might be laced around joy. It might come in waves. It might come in big waves, or no waves at all. And if that's the case, it's fine. There is no way to properly grieve. Just the only way is to honor how you feel. right? We're not pushing things away. We're not denying things. We're not trying to be something we're not. We're just honoring what's coming up for you. Because if you've loved, then you've lost and you grieve. Grief is a very beautiful honor of loving someone for such a long time. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Happy holidays. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Story of Spirit podcast. I hope you have found inspiration, support, and practical insights to help you align with your soul-led purpose and live a life that sets your soul on fire. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us to reach more listeners and continues to provide valuable content. I sincerely appreciate every share, and I know it is how most people find me. It is because caring people like you have shared me with them at the right and perfect time. For more resources, insights, and to connect with our community, please visit us at www.shetellstory.com and follow us on Instagram at shetellstory. Remember, your journey to a more aligned and vibrant life is just the beginning, and I am here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep shining your beautiful light. This is Shetell Story, signing off from the Story of Spirit podcast. Here's the legal ease that's required by our lawyers. This podcast and the YouTube channel represents the opinions of Shetell Story and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical, psychological, or financial advice. This series is informational and entertainment purposes only. Because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional, your mental health dream team, your financial advisor, or anyone else that's an expert in the field in where you are thinking of making big choices in your life.